If this beautiful story touches your heart, subscribe to the channel to receive more stories every day. The shopping mall was bustling that afternoon, with families strolling around, children running between the storefronts, and the typical hum of an ordinary day. Ronaldinho Gaúcho, dressed simply, with his inseparable cap and a smile on his face, walked leisurely, enjoying the tranquility. He liked moments like these, free from the pressure of the spotlight, just observing people and feeling the energy around him. Then, something caught his attention. In a corner, near the entrance of a closed store, there was a boy curled up, hugging his knees. His clothes were worn out, his shoes dirty and old. His lost and sad gaze indicated that he wasn't just waiting for someone, he seemed to have nowhere to go. Ronaldinho stopped for a moment, observing the scene. Many people passed by the boy without noticing him, as if he were invisible. This tugged at the star's heart. He knew what it was like to grow up with difficulties, but he had always been lucky enough to have his family by his side. What if this boy had no one? Driven by impulse, Ronaldinho approached, crouching down to the boy's level. "Hey, buddy, everything okay?" he asked in his calm and friendly voice. The boy slowly lifted his head, surprised that someone had spoken to him. His eyes carried a mix of fear and hope. He hesitated before answering, as if unsure whether he could trust. I'm okay," he murmured without much conviction. Ronaldinho smiled, trying to convey comfort. "Are you here alone? Where's your family?" The boy looked down and fell silent. It was at that moment that Ronaldinho realized this wasn't an easy question to answer. Curious and concerned, he decided to gently press on. Something told him that this conversation was just beginning, and that behind that silence, there was a story that needed to be heard. The boy's silence wasn't just shyness. It was a shield, an attempt to hide the pain he carried. Ronaldinho sensed this immediately. He had met many people throughout his life, and his instinct told him that this boy had a difficult story to tell. "It's okay, buddy. If you don't want to talk now, that's fine," Ronaldinho said, sitting down on the floor beside him. He wanted to show that he wasn't in a hurry, and that he was truly there without judgment. The boy glanced at him, still wary, but something about Ronaldinho's relaxed posture seemed to break through his resistance a little. Gradually, his breathing became less tense. "What's your name?" Ronaldinho asked, trying a different approach. "Gabriel," the boy replied, almost in a whisper. "Beautiful name. Gabriel, tell me something. Are you waiting for someone here?" The boy hesitated. He fidgeted with his fingers on his knees, looked away, and then finally shook his head. "I don't have anyone." That answer weighed heavily on Ronaldinho's chest. He furrowed his brow, trying to process the information. What did he mean, he had no one? But what about your parents? Where are they? He pressed carefully. Gabriel pressed his lips together, as if summoning the courage to speak. Then he took a deep breath and let it out all at once. "My mum left me here. She said she'd come back, but it's been hours. I don't think she's coming back." The silence that followed was deafening. Ronaldinho felt a tightening in his chest as he heard those words. He looked around as if by some miracle he might see someone coming to pick up the boy. But there was no one. Just people passing by, oblivious to the small drama unfolding there. The star took a deep breath. He knew he needed to act carefully. The last thing he wanted was to scare the boy. "Gabriel," he said in the gentlest voice possible. "Do you have somewhere to go, someone who can help you?" The boy just shook his head again. He had no one. Ronaldinho scratched his head, thoughtful. He couldn't just leave him there. He needed to do something. But before making any decisions, he wanted to understand the boy's story better. Ronaldinho took a deep breath. The mall, once just a backdrop of noise and movement, seemed to have quieted around the two of them. The pain in Gabriel's eyes was something he couldn't ignore. "Want to take a walk with me, buddy?" Ronaldinho asked with a friendly smile. "We can talk better while grabbing something to eat." Gabriel hesitated, but his stomach growled. Before he could answer, Ronaldinho laughed and winked at him. "Looks like your stomach already decided, huh?" For the first time, Gabriel gave a small smile. Even though he was still wary, he stood up and followed Ronaldinho to the food court. They chose a quieter spot, and the star made sure to order a full meal for the boy. As soon as the food arrived, Gabriel dug in hungrily, chewing quickly as if afraid someone might take it away from him. Ronaldinho just watched, feeling a tightening in his chest. When the boy finally slowed down, Ronaldinho asked carefully, "Tell me, Gabriel, what happened?" The boy was silent for a few moments, playing with a piece of bread from his sandwich. Then, without looking directly at Ronaldinho, he began to speak. "I lived with my mum, but she was always sad, always tired. We didn't have a real home. We slept in different places, sometimes in someone's house, sometimes on the street." Ronaldinho nodded, listening attentively. "She tried, you know. She did what she could, but one day she said she couldn't do it anymore, that it was too much." He paused, squeezing the juice cup with his small hands. "Then, this morning, she brought me here. She bought me some bread and said she was going to find a way to make things better. But it's been a long time, and she hasn't come back." Gabriel finally looked up at Ronaldinho, and in his eyes there was a mix of pain and acceptance, as if he already knew what had happened, but didn't want to believe it. Ronaldinho felt a lump in his throat. He knew many stories of overcoming adversity in soccer, but this was different. Gabriel wasn't a dreamy boy chasing a dream. He was just a child trying to survive. The former player took a deep breath and smiled slightly, trying to convey confidence. "You're not alone, buddy. We'll figure this out, okay?" Gabriel's eyes widened slightly. He seemed unused to hearing that kind of promise. Ronaldinho didn't yet know exactly how, but deep in his heart, he was already certain. He wasn't going to leave that boy there. Gabriel stared at Ronaldinho with a mix of surprise and doubt. He wasn't used to promises. In his short life, he had heard many empty words from people who soon disappeared. But there was something different here. The way Ronaldinho spoke, the way he looked at him, it wasn't pity, it was as if he truly cared. "Do you like soccer, Gabriel?" Ronaldinho asked as they finished eating. The boy nodded, a faint sparkle in his eyes. "I always dreamed of playing, but I never had a real ball. Sometimes I'd kick a bottle or a paper ball, but—" He shrugged, as if that was something too distant to wish for. Ronaldinho smiled. He knew what it was like to have a passion for soccer from a young age, knew the power a ball could have in a boy's life. And in that moment, he made a decision. "Then come with me, buddy," he said, standing up. Gabriel hesitated for a second, but seeing Ronaldinho's confident smile, he decided to follow. They walked through the mall until they reached a sports store. As soon as they entered, the boy's eyes widened. There were shiny cleats lined up on the shelves, jerseys of famous teams hanging on the walls, and balls of all kinds. He had never been in a place like this. "Pick out a pair of cleats for yourself," Ronaldinho said casually. Gabriel's eyes widened in confusion. "What do you mean?" "Well, you said you wanted to play, right? So you need cleats. Go ahead, pick a pair." The boy looked at him as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. Then, slowly, he approached the shelf and ran his fingers over the cleats, too afraid to pick any. They seemed too expensive, too nice to belong to someone like him. Ronaldinho noticed his hesitation and picked up a blue pair, lightweight and flexible. "How about these?" he asked, handing them to Gabriel. The boy held the cleats as if they were a trophy. His eyes sparkled with emotion and he held his breath for a moment. "Is this for real?" "Of course it is," Ronaldinho laughed. "And we're getting a ball too." Gabriel didn't know how to react. It was the first time someone had done something like this for him. The first time he felt seen, important. He felt a warmth in his chest, an emotion hard to explain. As they left the store, bag in hand, Gabriel looked at Ronaldinho and murmured, almost inaudibly, "Thank you." Ronaldinho ruffled the boy's hair. "This is just the beginning, buddy. Now let's see what you can do with those new cleats." Gabriel held the bag with the cleats and the ball as if they were treasures. His fingers gripped the plastic tightly, as if he feared that at any moment it might disappear. He still couldn't believe that someone, a complete stranger and not just anyone but Ronaldinho Gaúcho, was doing so much for him. "Now that you have the right tools, all that's left is to show your talent," Ronaldinho said, winking at the boy as they walked out of the mall. "But how?" Gabriel asked hesitantly. Ronaldinho paused for a moment, thoughtful, and then flashed his trademark smile. He pulled out his phone and quickly dialed a number before putting it to his ear. "Hey, my friend, how's everything going over there?" He listened attentively to the response on the other end, keeping his smile. "So, I'm here with a kid who's got what it takes to be a star. Think we can set up a trial for him at the academy?" Gabriel felt a knot in his stomach. He watched Ronaldinho talk to someone important, negotiating something on his behalf. Never in his life had someone bet on him like that. After a few minutes of conversation, Ronaldinho hung up and turned to Gabriel. "All set, buddy. Tomorrow morning, you've got a trial at one of the best youth academies in the city." Gabriel's eyes widened. "Me? A trial? With a real team?" "Of course," Ronaldinho replied enthusiastically. "But tell me something. Are you ready for this chance?" Gabriel swallowed hard. Fear and insecurity began to mix with excitement. He wanted this so badly, but a voice in his head whispered that maybe he wasn't good enough. Maybe he was just an ordinary boy without talent or luck. Ronaldinho noticed the hesitation and placed a firm hand on the boy's shoulder. "Look, I've seen plenty of stars doubt themselves before stepping onto the field. The secret isn't to not be afraid. It's to go out there anyway and give it your all." Gabriel took a deep breath and nodded. That night, as he lay down on a small mattress in a temporary shelter, arranged by Ronaldinho until they found a better solution, he held the cleats close to his chest. For the first time in a long while, he fell asleep with a smile on his face. Tomorrow could be the day that would change his life forever. The next morning, Gabriel woke up before the sun rose. The knot in his stomach was intense, but unlike other times when fear paralyzed him, this time it was different. There was a good kind of anxiety, a nervousness mixed with hope. He looked to the side and saw the new cleats next to his makeshift bed at the shelter. He touched them carefully, as if needing to make sure they were still there. After a quick breakfast, Ronaldinho arrived to pick him up. The star appeared with his usual calm demeanor, but Gabriel noticed he was attentive to every detail. This wasn't just a ride he was offering. It was silent support, a presence that said, "I'm with you." On the way to the soccer academy, Gabriel watched the city pass by through the window. For the first time, he didn't feel invisible. When they arrived at the field, he saw several boys of different ages, all in uniforms and well prepared. His heart raced. Did he really belong there? Ronaldinho noticed his tension and gave him a light pat on the shoulder. "Just remember one thing, buddy. Soccer is joy. Go out there and have fun." Gabriel took a deep breath, tightened his cleats, and stepped onto the field. The coach, a tall man with a serious demeanor, watched him curiously as Ronaldinho quickly explained the situation. "All right, kid, show us what you got," the coach said, handing him a ball. Gabriel swallowed hard. It was now or never. He controlled the ball carefully, feeling the texture of the leather against his feet. Then he started dribbling, and something magical happened. The fear, the insecurity, the knot in his stomach, it all disappeared. His feet moved naturally, as if the field were his home and the ball an extension of his body. He dribbled past cones with ease, then one of the other boys on the team. When he reached the goal, he didn't hesitate. He shot with power and precision. The ball hit the back of the net. The coach looked at Ronaldinho and smiled sideways. The kid's got talent. Gabriel was panting, but his eyes were shining. For the first time, he felt like he wasn't just a lost boy in the world. He had something inside him, something no one could take away. Ronaldinho smiled and waved at him, proud. "This is just the first step, buddy. Now it really begins." Gabriel smiled back. Gabriel left the field with trembling legs, but it wasn't from exhaustion. It was adrenaline. It was the thrill of feeling that, for the first time, someone had seen something in him beyond a boy. Abandoned in a mall. The coach watched him with interest, talking to Ronaldinho on the sidelines. Gabriel didn't yet know what they were saying, but from the look on the star's face, it seemed like good news. After a few minutes, the coach approached and crossed his arms. "Listen, kid, you've got talent. You need to work on a few things, of course, but that's what we're here for. If you want, you can start training with us." Gabriel's heart leapt. He blinked a few times, processing those words. Training? With a real team? Really? His voice came out almost in a whisper. The coach smirked. "As long as you show up every day on time and prove you really want to be here, no slacking off." Gabriel nodded frantically. Yes, yes, I will. Ronaldinho gave him a light pat on the back. See? I told you you had. Something special, buddy. But then something crossed Gabriel's mind. Where would he stay? How would he support himself while training? The shelter where he'd spent the night was temporary. Fear began to creep back into his chest. Ronaldinho seemed to read his thoughts, and before Gabriel could ask anything, he crouched down a bit, meeting the boy at eye level. Relax, Gabriel. I've already thought about that. You'll have a place to stay, food, school, everything sorted. I know some people who can help, and I'll keep an eye on your progress myself. I'm not going to leave you alone. The boy's eyes filled with tears. Just a few days ago, he thought his life was doomed to a cycle of abandonment. Now he had a real chance. Thank you, he murmured, unsure how to express everything he was feeling. Ronaldinho smiled and ruffled his hair. The way to thank me. There's only one, play with joy. Gabriel smiled, quickly wiping his eyes. He had a place to train. He had a home being arranged. And above all, he had someone who believed in him. Gabriel had never imagined that, in such a short time, his life could change so much. That morning he had woken up without direction, without anyone. Now he had a team to train with, a mentor who believed in him, and most unbelievably, a place to call home. After the successful trial, Ronaldinho took Gabriel to see where he would be staying. The former player had called in some favors and secured a spot for him at an institution that helped children in vulnerable situations. It was a simple place, but clean and organized, with teachers, psychologists, and a structured routine. More than a temporary shelter, it was an environment where he would have support to study, eat well, and, of course, keep playing soccer. He walked through the gates of his new home. Gabriel looked around warily. The feeling of belonging was still foreign to him. But something inside him said that here, he could finally start over. This is your new home, buddy, Ronaldinho said, placing a hand on his shoulder. Gabriel took a deep breath. How many times had he dreamed of having a fixed place to sleep, without worrying about where he'd spend the night? He met some of the other boys who lived there, and little by little realized he wasn't alone. After showing him around, Ronaldinho stopped in front of a small soccer field inside the shelter. He picked up the new ball he'd bought for Gabriel and tossed it toward him. How about a challenge? If you can dribble past me, I'll give you a prize. Gabriel smiled. He felt lighter, more confident. He controlled the ball and went straight at Ronaldinho, who laughed as he tried to mark him. The boy attempted a quick dribble, but the former star wasn't easy to fool. Still, it was a fun match. After a few minutes, both stopped, panting but smiling. You're getting better, huh? Ronaldinho praised. But there's still a lot to learn. Gabriel nodded. I want to learn. I want to be really good. Ronaldinho smiled, satisfied. Then you're on the right path, but always remember, soccer is joy, never lose that. The boy felt those words echo within him. In that moment, he understood that his life was truly changing. But this was only the first stage of his journey. The real challenge was just beginning. The days flew by. Gabriel threw himself into training, dedicating himself like never before. With every kick, every dribble, he felt stronger, more confident. At first, he still carried doubts about himself, but over time the insecurity gave way to the certainty that he was on the right path. Ronaldinho kept his promise. He was present at many of the training sessions, encouraging him, correcting details in his technique, and above all reminding him that soccer was joy. Gabriel absorbed every piece of advice like a sponge, determined to turn this opportunity into something real. Beyond soccer, he also returned to school. At first, it was hard to adapt to the routine after so long without a fixed structure. But, with the support of the shelter's staff and Ronaldinho, he found a balance. Over time, he began to see the value of education, understanding that soccer could open many doors, but knowledge would help him make the most of them. His efforts began to pay off. His talent on the field caught the attention of the academy's coaches. Within a few months, he received an invitation to play for a youth team in local competitions. For Gabriel, it was the realization of a dream that until recently had seemed impossible. On the day of his first official match, he put on the uniform with a mix of nerves and excitement. In the locker room, he took a deep breath, remembering everything he'd been through. He wasn't the boy abandoned in the mall anymore, without hope. Now he was a player with a team with a future. Before stepping onto the field, he checked his phone and saw a message from Ronaldinho. Be who you were born to be. And remember, soccer is joy. Gabriel smiled. He walked out of the tunnel and onto the field with confidence. He looked up at the stands and, among the faces in the crowd, spotted Ronaldinho watching. He was there. The whistle blew, the ball rolled, and Gabriel ran into the game, into the future, into the new life he had fought for. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave your like so more people can discover stories that change lives.